$30.
Right, but I forget what.
Presently, it's at $5.
I forget what MGL 60 section 15 is.
We voted to recommend it.
Right.
We did.
I believe we did.
Oh, we did?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it's in my notes that we did, so.
Yep.
I may have had that wrong, too.
I think we were pretty well set. I think it's just the capital stuff we were.
I had a question at the last meeting, and I'm not sure what the answer was. We had talked about, in past meetings, putting some money towards funding the putting towards the unfunded liability.
Right.
And we've never made a decision on doing that, but I had recommended that we do it this year.
I agree, but typically what we do is we looked at the October town meeting. That was the proposal that I had made, is we funded at the October town meeting.
Okay. You don't, and there's no risk, you don't believe there's gonna be any risk from a borrowing standpoint between now and October town meeting with any of the
We're
activities?
going to borrow and put money in there.
No. The consultant came in and told us that if we don't start putting some money,
The audit.
the auditors, thank you.
We put money in 2 years in a row, not a lot of money.
At October
in
town meeting.
October town meeting.
Okay.
So in fact, we talked about that for a discussion tomorrow if it comes up.
Okay, good.
Tomorrow morning.
All right, just want to make sure.
Yeah, we think we've got about $43,000 in that account right now.
Okay.
That's not saying we shouldn't be thinking
You're
about
like
doing
43
more.
million short. We're getting
What
there.
about-
We're getting
That's
short.
about right.
We're getting short.
Closing that gap.
I think well,
There was one more.
what?
The health agent. The
Oh, the last-
health revolving account.
Oh, and what happened is the finance committee is voted it down. They're not recommending it, I should say. And if you notice, I think Greg pulled it out of the warrant
Why?
that we signed, right?
No, it's here.
Oh, it's
there.
there? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's here.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we should do it.
I know it's in this warrant, but
Yeah.
Oh, it's here.
what did I see?
23.
It's still here.
I think it was 24.
I think we should fight for them and help them get this account.
It's the last article,
Yeah, it was just 24.
23.
Oh,
No.
okay, we pulled something else out.
We're only talking
Pull up the energy
15,000.
conservation.
Yeah,
if we pull that.
$15,000.
Now we got only
That's why,
23.
okay. When I looked at it, it said 23. That's why he said he pulled it out. Okay, so,
Did the health department make a presentation to the
They did.
finance committee? Or did you?
This article, as it is written in the warrant, is very narrow. It's only allowing a revolving fund for the purposes of monies associated with immunization clinics. That is the purpose of the article. When the Board of Health presented this to the Finance Committee, they were looking for something much broader. They were looking for something to supplement their department and their operations. Based upon that, the Finance Committee was not in favor of that general broad language. That general broad language is never proposed by the Board of Health in this article, and the version that you see here is based upon the original draft from a year ago, or a couple of years ago, which is very narrow in its interpretation.
so they didn't just go before the finance committee at their last meeting?
They went to the Finance Committee at the last meeting.
Yeah,
And-
the
and
night
they asked
following.
for more than what's in the article?
Yeah, they talked about it, but the article was very narrowly written. So the left hand and the right hand, the Board of Health originally proposed an article, which you see here, which is narrowly written, and then went to the Finance Committee and proposed that it be something that be more general. If you look at the Youth Services Department, that's an example of a generally worded revolving fund. They were looking for something similar to that, and the Finance Committee was not in favor of that.
But that's not within the scope of the article as presented
That's correct.
for town meeting consideration.
That's
first and foremost. So,
So what
The-
are the wishes of the board at this
well,
point?
no, I guess, Greg, what do you recommend at this point? I mean, again, I'm not sure what the Board of Health is actually looking for now, based upon what you said.
Yeah.
If Martin went in and presented something on a broader scale as to what's needed,
Yeah.
and this is very narrow and targeted.
Very much so.
I mean, I'm not opposed to this.
Nor am I, as written,
But-
I'm not opposed to it either.
But if that's not really what they're looking for or feel as
Yeah.
though they need and really want us to
I-
consider, you know,
I did state to the Finance Committee, I'm not in favor of generally broadly worded revolving funds, because not all departments are structured to create revenues for the town. It creates an unfair playing field where departments that bring in revenue, because the state law allows them to charge fees, are allowed the opportunity to have special revolving funds to support their operations. I'm not in favor of that, and I never will be in favor of that going forward in terms of supplementing the budget. And if it's used as a way to get around going through the budget process, then I'm wholeheartedly against it.
But I think Steve's question is, what does the health department want?
Yeah.
Do they want this narrowly tailored revolving fund, or are they looking for something broader?
This is what they've got.
No.
Okay, I would ask that you go to the Board of Health, not Martin. Board of Health, ask the chairman of the Board of Health, what is it you're looking for? Because a mixed message is being sent.
This is what was submitted by the Board of Health. Okay, I want to be very clear, this is what was submitted by the Board of Health.
And that's what was
I don't want the
presented
chairman
here.
of the Board of Health calling the Board of Selectmen
Right.
and saying they wanted something different.
Yeah, but
This is what was submitted,
Okay, fine.
period.
And that's
But
what was
then-
presented to
Yeah.
us.
Period.
And I
No,
agree
we're with
with
you
you.
on that.
I know,
I
but
don't
now-
want to be blamed if there's some other miscommunication, this is what was submitted.
But now-
But
but
just
now-
based upon what I heard of, which you said that it was presented to the Finance Committee, it was a much broader.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear this broad presentation.
Right.
I never heard of it.
Was the
Right, so
Board of
who
Health
presented it?
No,
This was the health agent that was present.
not the Board of
Health.
Health, okay. So not the members of
So
the board.
I'm not in favor of a broader, I like this, I thought the way it was worded and the way it was explained to
My
us.
understanding is what they were looking for.
Yeah.
To deal with the
You-
immunization.
Yeah, in the emergency, and they were talking about getting grants, which this refers to the grants, and he only needed up to no more than $15,000, so now I'm really confused.
Okay, so I would just suggest that you get a clarification from the chairman of the Board of Health that this is exactly what they want, because what was presented by the health agent was something broader and different. And if this is what they're looking for, then we'll make a recommendation based upon this. If they're looking for something more broad, the article doesn't cover it, and it should be withdrawn or passed over.
Right.
And then, we'll deal with it in October or next year. But, so at this point, I just recommend that we hold our recommendation until we get some clarification as to what the Board of Health would like to have.
Now, do you want a board member to contact?
What's that?
Gary? You're suggesting a board member?
Board of Health is appointed by town
I'll contact
administrator.
Okay,
And,
that's a good question.
and it just maybe passing along a little more information on it, or my recommendation would be, is if it comes back to this board and we all agree we want to take this forward and we recommend it, that Martin Fair be fully prepared to stand up on town meeting floor to explain it, because when the finance committee stands up and they don't recommend it, I think there's gonna have to be some explaining to the town, to the voters.
I would recommend.
I think
that-
Gary's gonna do it.
Oh, Gary, somebody,
Yeah.
somebody stand up there.
Right.
Because we're gonna, if we end up recommending, I just think there has to be somebody prepared to speak clearly on this.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Ewing.
Yeah, it might even be a good suggestion to have Martin go back to the Finance Committee and say, there's been a misunderstanding here, this is what we're looking for, if it's that.
Well,
Because
certainly we-
I will tell you-
that'll avoid an argument on the floor.
Look, I will tell you, I said to Mr. Fair at that meeting that if he intended to have more broadly worded language, he should submit that language to us before the warrant is finalized and presented to the Board of Selectmen. Nothing was submitted to me, okay?
So
I want to be
understand
clear.
Your point, you're.
There's only so much I can do, Mrs.
No, no.
Selectman Yule. I said to Mr. Fair, if you've got additional language, submit it.
He did, so this is
It
it.
didn't get submitted.
This is it.
This is it.
You let him to the water, Greg. You can't make him drink it, so you did your job.
So, I guess we'll wait.
We'll wait.
All right,
Good, that's it.
is that
I
it?
think that's, well, at least on my notes, that's the only.
Okay, so we got 2 items for
Cross your teeth, Doug.
our next meeting. I should say.
That way.
Next item on our agenda is
Ratification.
ratification of the police contract. Mr. Valentine.
Board members, as I stated to you before the meeting, that document is not ready to be ratified. It's being prepared by Human Resources, and we'll have it available for the next session.
Okay.
So that we're clear, we reached an agreement a number of months ago with Local 25.
Mm-hmm.
We have a memorandum of agreement that's been in existence for a number of months.
Mhm.
What we're waiting for now is to have that memorandum of agreement,
It's actually
Cooperate.
2.
2 memorandums of agreement to be incorporated
Consolidated, right.
into one collective bargaining agreement, correct?
With all the language
Right.
updated and completed.
Correct.
That's all we're waiting for.
Correct. And those memorandums of agreement carry the full force of the contract, so no one is being denied any benefits.
No issues regarding it.
This is
Is
just,
this the
So
only one
it's
that's
just
left?
a paper thing then.
Are there any other CBAs that are remaining?
That's it.
This is it.
okay. Town
So
administration.
can I just ask,
Uh,
timeline on when you anticipate we may have a finalized document?
I was hoping we would have it today.
All right, so
Human
like-
Resources has been working on it. They were thrown a little bit of a curve with an employee issue over the last 2 weeks, which prevented
That's
them
it.
from
No,
getting
no,
to
I
it.
just
Yeah.
asked for
Yeah,
estimated time.
next
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Town administrator's report.
Hi. I wanted to update you on some happenings in the police department. There is a examination that we have requisitioned for sergeant and lieutenant. The examination will be given in October. This will be necessary to fill one vacancy that exists in each of those ranks. We currently have acting sergeant and acting lieutenant. If town meeting does create the third lieutenant's position, then we will have an additional sergeant and an additional lieutenant vacancy. We've requested the maximum. So if town meeting does approve, then we don't need anything more in terms of additional requisitions for those two positions. Lastly, we do have one position that remains to be filled at the rank of patrolman. We have been working our way through the civil service system. It has been very frustrating. We have requested list after list, and I think as I represented to one of the board members who asked me a question about, we did receive a list for open competitive, which means that we will either be hiring a patrol officer from that list or from our reserve officer list. Presently, we have 2 people on our reserve officer list. And according to human resources regulations at the state, we need 3, which is the reason why we needed to go ahead and file for an open competitive. The closing date on that list is May 16th. Chief Murphy assures me that he'll come forward with a recommendation shortly after the closing date, and we'll be able to fill that position forthwith.
So, once you have that and you have additional candidates, that doesn't exclude the
No.
reserve officers?
Not at all. You just need to have 3 people on your list. Okay. Some good news. We have received $27,938 representing the federal disaster reimbursement for Hurricane Irene last August. It's unexpected money. Represents 75% of the total expenditure that the town had. And so these monies have come in. And if they're an available fund, what I would suggest is that they be dedicated to the stabilization fund at June town meeting. So it is a potential source of funds.
So, this was not anticipated?
We anticipated, Bob, but the question is, when is the timing, when does the money
Oh,
come in?
okay, the
It's not-
receipt was not,
It's not built into our revenue plan.
yeah. This is money that we were expecting to come sometime next year.
Typically, it takes about a year. So, August, the timing would be sometime around the end of the fiscal year or the beginning of the next year. But the finance department did inform me that the monies were received today.
And if I could, a quick question. So I think what we submitted to FEMA was around $55,000-$60,000?
This was about 36 to 37.
Oh, is that
I'm
what-
just thinking about the
This is-
75%.
And so we got something,
This is
okay.
the hurricane.
This is exactly what we
That's
expected
right.
to
I'm
receive.
getting confused.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, the other one is the snowstorm.
Okay.
And we have not heard anything on that. I don't expect that we'll hear anything until next fiscal year on that.
Thank you.
Actually, we were expecting this in next fiscal year too.
Right, which is one of the reasons why I'm suggesting that rather than just letting it roll into surplus funds that we dedicated to one of our savings accounts. You remember, any transfers that have been approved by the Finance Committee came from the reserve fund, so it makes some sense that the money's tracked their way back to one of the town savings accounts. And I'll have a conversation with the Finance Committee relative to what their wishes are for the money, but the board might want to think about that for its next meeting. And if so, make an appropriate recommendation for town meeting so that we can have a motion in place to take those monies and put them in the
Just like
stabilization
to hear
account.
your recommendation
I think,
first.
I'd like to see it go to the stabilization fund. I think, again, we've already got sufficient monies going to the debt capital stabilization fund. I think the regular stabilization fund would be a good source of funds. Presently, we don't have any money going to the stabilization fund at town meeting. And it's always nice to be able to say, when we're going out to bonding on our project, that we're looking to dedicate $28,000 to our savings account.
money that just came in. Yeah.
just arrived.
I don't disagree at this point. We weren't counting on it. And I think,
Yeah, I agree.
I just assume, recommend that we put it into the stabilization.